In this video, I'm taking you on an adventure in Paris. If you're like me and you love to go to places like Paris, but you don't love to be there when there's lots of tourists, February is a great time. So I'm here in February and the weather has been a little chilly here and there and some rain, but you know what, who cares? It's worth it for having fewer tourists. I am now on the Rue Jacob, which is a little bit less full of people than some of the main streets in Paris as well, so it makes for a wonderful walk. As someone that has been coming to Paris for a long time, many years, I always love finding off the beaten path places and of course fewer tourists. So in this video I'll be sharing some of the fun off the beaten path places that I found this visit to Paris. I had some time before an appointment not too far from the Gare Saint-Lazare and found this amazing little area that I've never explored before. That's what I love about Paris, these little side streets that bring you to these unexpected statues and little corridors. And there's a Fragonard Museum of Perfume. Now the entrance I showed you before was apparently the group entrance. So I had to walk down a bit to the other side and around to find the actual single solo kind of entrance for the museum, which was, well, you know, it wasn't a place I'd spend a ton of time, but it was nice to get a quick glimpse and check out the shop below. I spent a little more time this visit in Neuilly-sur-Seine, just outside the 16th arrondissement. It had some really cool spots, like this one, which had possibly the best raclette I have ever tasted. You can even eat in a little cable car. Walking along the river of the Seine might not be an off-the-beaten-track activity, but in February it was lovely because there were so few people doing it with me. And just draws us in, even in the dead of winter where there's not much sun. Even under the rain, Paris is just beautiful. I love walking down random streets that go to places where I have no idea, that allow me just to admire the buildings instead of going into stores or anything really in particular. Sometimes someone leaves the door open and you get a great view of a place you might not have expected. And you can imagine if you lived here. I like to do that a lot when I'm in Paris.
I stumbled into this cafe on a Google Maps review, and it was fabulous, possibly the best coffee I've ever had, complete with a pre and post coffee drink with mango and coconut. Oh my God, it was fabulous. They told me you drink this one first to whet your appetite for the coffee, and then after you finish the coffee, you go for the straight mango drink, which makes the nutty flavor come out. And they also have a pastry chef, so you can pick from a wonderful assortment of different cakes and sweets when you go. These streets in central Paris, also not off the beaten path. However, again, I was so delighted at how few tourists there were. So I'm nearing Odéon right now, and as you can see, it's super empty. So February is a really great time to be in Paris.
For me, a lot of what I love in Paris is just walking on streets that I don't know as well, or just don't have lots of people on them. I've never even heard of La Grande Chancellerie. I don't even know what it is. I'll have to look it up. Walking along the Seine, it's so intriguing how many different bridges there are that you can take your pick. So I'm at a point of the Seine which doesn't have the bouquiniste and isn't right in the tourist center, so again, it's a great way to be along the Seine, get your taste of the river, but also have fewer tourists. I think the clouds in Paris are different than, even in France, but mostly in Paris, are different than many places. You can understand how Impressionists got their inspiration to paint.
Another way to see less touristy areas of Paris is to go to the more residential spots. This neighborhood is one I used to live in college, and it is still really residential. Not a lot of touristy sites. This is just the local church. It's quite beautiful and still a lovely place to get away and take a stroll away from lots of tourists. I took advantage of the lovely weather to walk to the Pére Lachaise Cemetery. Sort of amazing to find very few people here at Pére Lachaise.
This is wonderful. I know it's sort of morbid to go to cemeteries, but Pére Lachaise, of course, has many famous people that are buried here and is a big place to see. I haven't seen it for years. So, and by the way, it closes at 5, and even if you get here 15 minutes early, I found out the hard way, they won't let you in. So make sure to get here well before they close if you want to visit Pére Lachaise when you're in Paris. I forgot how big the cemetery is, and it's really confusing. They have a plot number and a sort of a tomb and an area and a division, and it's very hard to find what you're looking for. So I'm trying to find Jim Morrison's grave, and then I think I'm going to feel accomplished for the day. So hopefully I'm almost there. I met a gentleman that turned out to be a guide that helped me figure out what my mistake was and why I hadn't found Jim Morrison yet.
I found it, and apparently it has been a really long time since I was last here because there used to be a bust on top of it, of his head, which I Googled and found it was stolen in 1988.
If you come to Pére Lachaise, I highly recommend either getting a map or making sure that your phone is charged up and you've got Google Maps, because figuring your way out of here was another big feat that I'm so glad that I had my GPS with me, and then at the end you can hopefully find some people and follow the crowds to the exit. And this is the other entrance or exit to the cemetery. Now in Neuilly, this is a much more residential area. Apart from, there is a big Hyatt hotel and a couple of other big hotel chains actually. So you may have some visitors or business people here because it's near La Défense, but otherwise it's a pretty residential neighborhood and a great way to escape crowds in Paris. A rainy day is still a beautiful day when you're in Paris.
Here's a look at the cute little neighborhood you'll find if you go to Neuilly.
Some luck, you might come to the Place du Marché and find that the market is here at the same day and time that you are. The flowers in Paris are always so beautiful.
Back in the center of Paris, right near the Louvre. Definitely not a place to go to avoid tourists. However, once again, in February, there's a lot fewer of them. And if you go through some of the back streets across from the Louvre, you can find these lovely little neighborhoods. And I love the little galleries like this that you find, and you can just enjoy a few moments of finding and discovering new things.
If you come to Paris during February, expect it to be a little bit like les quatre saisons, the four seasons. I went already today from rain, a little bit chilly, now it's gorgeous and sunny, and actually I'm getting hot.
This may be the coolest, most fascinating activity I have ever done in Paris.
Going for a fun adventure.
We are suiting up and we're going to put goggles over our eyes and have a virtual reality experience where you go through history and watch, and with a guide have a tour of Notre Dame being built through the ages.
Oui, voilà, normalement c'est bon.
D'accord. That was incredible. It was a virtual reality experience, which there's no way to film, but you have to do this. It's worth every penny. I think it was 30 euros. It is worth every penny of it and more. I practically cried at the end. It was Notre Dame, basically how it was built from the Middle Ages. You journey up it, walk across wooden beams. You just have to do it. It's amazing. Oh my goodness. So when you come out of the virtual reality experience, you may have like sea legs. So I'm realizing I'm not sure if I can trust the ground beneath my feet. So it's a very funny and odd experience when you leave and go out into actual reality.
Fun, cool local experience. Try watching a soccer match when Paris Saint-Germain, the local team, is playing. Now, on the other spectrum, the absolute worst thing you can do in Paris year-round to try and avoid tourists is go to the Arc de Triomphe and then walk down the Chancellerie. I'm doing it here, but it is probably the most touristy place in all of Paris. But it is worth seeing the Louis Vuitton store under construction. It's pretty cool. A cool little spot that's a little bit less touristy is here. It's the Place Dauphine. You might recognize it from the movie Me Before You. It's got a few restaurants. They play pétanque here sometimes, and it's a very peaceful little area that tends to have fewer people walking around.
When the sun comes out in February or whenever in Paris, first off, it's really gotten extremely hot. Remember I told you about les quatre saisons, and of course everyone is now outside taking their lunch. One thing to keep in mind is you might be tempted to go to the restaurant with lots of people thinking that that's where the food is the best, but in sunny weather it could actually be that there's lots of people because they're taking advantage of the weather, which may be even more important than the quality of the food. One sure way to be away from the crowds and make it feel like you have more time is to just sit by the Seine and just admire the view.
This is another example of simply walking like one block off the main drag and finding myself somewhere I've never been before. The view and architecture are just stunning, and I even happened upon a cute little park. Back on the Seine and not too crowded, another fun activity was to take the Batobus. So it's a boat bus that you can take within central Paris. It makes several stops around the perimeter of the Seine, some central tourist spots. And on a lovely day like this, it was fabulous to be outside and take them in. Once off the boat, you can see the countdown to the Olympics being hosted in Paris this summer. Fun fact, when you're trying to get a great picture of the Eiffel Tower or you with it in the background, walk away from all of the swarms of tourists, and you'll have no competition and a much better photo. Like this one. And that's it for this round of Paris. Make sure to get your free guide with 12 ways to afford full-time travel, link below in the description.